The combination of the Oregon Ducks retaining Dante Moore, adding Koi Perich, and absolutely making the right decisions in the transfer portal make the Ducks a prime 2026 title contender.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day right here in the nation's #1 podcasting network, Locked On. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. And check out Game Time because it is one of the easiest apps to use. We're going to be discussing Teitum Tuioti, and just an awesome Oregon Ducks defense that added a guy that I think will challenge, if not win, Big Ten's Defensive Player of the Year. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show. It's a stacked roster overall. It's not just a sentiment at any one spot. As I went through and dug out all the stats, PFF, etc., there's no place I go, Oregon's in trouble here. They have a very, very well-balanced roster in terms of experience, in terms of playmakers, and overall just a good youth movement pushing up, forcing the depth chart to really take a look at all the coaches at all the spots on the depth chart. It's a great roster. Transfer portal additions and subtractions. It's interesting. Maybe the most intriguing part of this show will be discussing some of the losses and the gains, especially in the secondary. Perich is probably the most unique to me. He's the kid came over from Minnesota. If you don't know about him, you will. But there are others too. There are several others. And the most important thing, if you take nothing else from this show, Dante Moore coming back and adding Raiola, which is a great insurance policy for 2026. And he'll obviously take over after that. This is as good a quarterback room as there is in college football when you consider the 1-2. I don't really think it's close. Last year, Raiola threw over 70%. He's a 2-year starter at Nebraska. He was a 5-star, and many thought the #1 quarterback in the country coming out a couple years ago. And Moore, same deal. 3 years ago, a lot of people thought he was the #1 quarterback, myself included, and he is back. So we're going to talk about him, but note this, like he was really good last year, but that extra year of experience and that extra year of kind of letting it sit and understand, going through film, that's only going to benefit not only Dante Moore to get himself to the National Football League, but also help the Ducks win some of those games that they may not otherwise win. Oftentimes it comes down to a critical passing play in big games. Dante Moore being a year removed from this past season, more time to experience everything, go through it. It's going to help the Ducks. So with that, I have some questions that I want to ask and kind of go through for the group overall. Then we'll kind of hit on them as we go through the entirety of the show. But here are the questions that I have for everybody. This is pretty much straightforward. Number one, does Dante Moore actually go up a notch? That's the first thing. I think that he will. And I think that, again, that year of experience matters a lot, but it's not a lock. He has to earn that year of experience. He has to go out and prove that in big games, he can be that guy. He did not play well against Indiana either time he went up against the Hoosiers. Will he learn from that? They have a new OC. They have a new situation in terms of how the play calling is going to work. Is it going to be as many short passes, kind of like the last coaching staff? I don't know. They're going to have to adjust. How does Dante handle that and accept even more of a leadership role? He's a very talented young man, but he will be a senior. There's no exception to it. He is a very talented guy that a lot will be put on his plate. Will he produce? Unfortunately for him, and not surprisingly, he will not have Kenyon Sadiq to throw to again. That is one of the most unique tight ends I've ever seen in college football. He was muscle on muscle. He's headed to the NFL. I expect him to be a first-round pick. Really, really talented. The question is, do they do it by committee? Do they bring in other guys? We'll get into that a little bit. Offensive line, they have one guy that I'll talk about here in a minute with the stats. It's really talented, but he played at Yale the last 3 years. I believe it was 26 starts. We'll talk about that. Is it going to be in a good line, or does Oregon take that next step and become an elite offensive line? On the defensive line side, they lost a bunch of transfers, a bunch. I believe it's 7 overall, but will the D-line depth be good enough, especially if they lose somebody like Tuioti or maybe even multiple guys, like if they lose Bear Alexander, like you can't really replace that player. How would they go about it? Because the 4 starters are back. Teitum Tuioti is really good, but that's just one of the 4. I think they're going to be the best down 4 in college football, but I'm concerned about the depth. They were maybe the deepest team this past year, but all those transfers will hurt them. And then in the secondary, they lose several guys, but not that many that I thought were really that big a deal. Koi Perich is the guy to watch, though. Started as a freshman at Minnesota, was all Big Ten level player. This past year, he played too many snaps, probably. His PFF grades went down, but he was really, really elite in terms of just what he did all around. He went from 5 picks to 1. Teams avoided him, tried to take him out of the ball game for Minnesota, but now he's at Oregon with other great players around him. You can't avoid him. He's my guy that I think is going to end up being the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Like Tatum on one edge, you got Bear in the middle, like Uyunglele on the other edge, Amari Washington at D tackle. They're loaded up front. They're going to get some pass rush. It's going to be a lot of 3rd and longs. Perich is going to be probably the beneficiary. I look for him to have 4 or 5 picks this next year and be, if not the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, at least first team All Big Ten. So with that in mind, I also think that we're going to be seeing a lot of guys that get to rotate in and out, and their schedule and everything aside, Oregon's depth should make them one of the best teams in not only the Big Ten, but the country. I think they're a top 8 team preseason by pretty much any measurement. Depending on how the O-line goes and the D-line with the depth, they could be the best team in the country. So let's dive into a few stats here that I have. And this is just my opinion on everything. And I'm just going to start with quarterback and kind of move the way down. We'll get through quarterback, and then we'll come back and kind of go through the rest of it from there. But the biggest thing with Dante, look, he was 295, a 412, 71.6%. So he was a high percentage guy. They are going to change the offense. Will Stein is gone, but he had 3,550 yards, 8.6 yards per attempt, 30 scores, 10 picks. I like to see the picks go down a little bit, but still, that's pretty good. More impressively, on passes that went 20 or more yards, he was 30 of 55, 54.5%. That is elite. 962 yards, 17.5 yards per attempt, 15 TDs, 2 picks. So he throws the deep ball as well as anybody. And with the speed that Oregon has, we'll go into that here in just a minute, it's ridiculous. I even added one more. They got 3 speed burners coming back, and they also have, for what it's worth, another guy you may not know about, we're going to talk about in the next segment. He also was a pretty decent runner, 62 carries, 295 yards, 4.8 yards per carry, 2 TDs. He did have 9 fumbles. We're talking about Dante Moore. Got to do a better job with ball security. That's the difference. Again, big games, you cannot fumble the football. So what about Dylan Raiola being the backup? This is my take on it. I don't know if he knew Dante was coming back. I have no idea. But my guess is he knew, and he just wanted to learn, kind of do the same thing, ironically, that Dante did the first year he came to Oregon as a sophomore, sit out and watch. But if he does have to play again, he threw almost identical percentage. He was around 71, 72%. So you've got a veteran there. And if Dante misses any games, you're going to have a guy that knows what it looks like to be in big games. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. And I also think that Oregon understands, hey, we're a program that can win with our depth. I mean, their top 2 rushers this past year were freshmen. We'll talk about that next right here on the Portal Podcast.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. The WNBA has released its 2026 schedule, featuring a 44-game regular season beginning on Friday, May 8th. The league's historic 30th season includes expansion teams Portland Fire and the Toronto Tempo, with opening weekend highlights such as Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever hosting Paige Beckers and the Dallas Wings, and a rematch of the 2025 finals between the Aces and the Mercury. And unrivaled, Miami felt the breeze as Paige Beckers powered the breeze to a 75-68 win over the Lunar Owls, finishing with 28 points and 7 assists. She was joined by 20-year-old Dominique Malunga, who added 21 points, 8 rebounds, and became just the second player to ever dunk in an unrivaled game. In college hoops, South Carolina handed Vanderbilt its first loss of the season with a dominant 103-74 win. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment. Putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more.
Thank you very much for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in. We're also going to be talking about the Everydayer Club. If you have not already, check it out down in the description below. It'll explain, but if you want to take your pods on the go, audio is going to be free in terms of not having to hear them. $5 a month, so not technically free, but $5 is pretty cheap, or $50 a year, whatever you want to do. The Everydayer Club, and we have a Discord and other ways you can have fun with the Everydayer Club right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Let's talk a little bit about the depth now, the running backs and all the different players that they have. It's ridiculous at Oregon, but they got two freshmen coming back that I think are going to be the mainstays, if you will. And one was the bull in the china shop at 15 rushing touchdowns, and the other was the speed demon. So I'm not sure how it's going to go long-term, but I'm going to say right now that Oregon doesn't matter really which guy that gets the start for this next season. You're going to see a scenario where, to be really honest with you, Oregon can rotate and do things situationally, or if they want to go and figure it out in another manner, it's not going to make any difference because they're so talented that they have the ability to do whatever they need to do. So the first thing that we're going to talk about here, let's go with the power guy first. Jordan Davison, he's 6 foot 235, played at Mater Dei, 14 games last year. He did miss the Indiana game at the end, but he had 320 snaps, 113 carries, 665 yards, 5.9, and 15 scores. Again, missed the Indiana game, but 15 touchdowns, pretty impressive. Heading long at 67 yards against Rutgers. That's a big-time player. But the kid that's more exciting, like more explosive, he didn't play quite as many snaps, that would be De'Aaron Hill Jr., 5'11", 205, had a long run of 71 against Indiana, the 56-yard run against James Madison, had a 66-yard run against Northwestern. He had 74 carries, 655 yards, 8.9, and 5 scores. Like, that's insane. He had 12 runs of 15 or more yards. So with Davison and Hill, they retain both of them. Like, the portal is the most important part of this show, but like Oregon's best thing is the retention. They got Raiola coming in. They didn't need to add a running back with those two guys coming back, and they've got other guys too. But with those two, they're set for bear. At wide receiver, this is where it gets really, really interesting. I don't think there are too many teams that are going to have anywhere near the speed that Oregon does, but at the same time, it's to the point where it's a track team. Oregon's known for track, but Teitum Moore is back. He got banged up, missed 4 games. He was a freshman last year, 34 catches, 497 yards, and he had 3 TDs. But that's an elite player. He had 5 catches of 20-plus yards, averaged 34.2 yards per catch, and a couple scores on those. And that's just one of them. Jeremiah McClellan, that's a redshirt freshman from this past year, 15 games, 520 snaps. He did really well when Moore wasn't out of the lineup. I'll go over that in a second, but 37 catches, 544 yards, 3 scores. That's really, really good. But the time that Moore was out, he stepped up even more. 4.3 receptions a game, 45.5 yards per game, and he also scored a touchdown against Minnesota in that time span. So they have guys stepping up that are really good. And I also think they have guys that can really run in general at wide receiver. I don't think enough teams realize, or enough people realize just what it's like to have guys that are that explosive coming back. And then on top of it, they're going to add Iverson Hooks, 5'10", 175 pounds. He played at UAB the last 3 years. He got 1 year left, but he just went nuts this past year. 72 catches, 927 yards, 12.9, 7 scores on passes of 20 or more yards. He caught 9 of 24 of those, 236 yards, 26.2 yards per catch, and 4 scores. Oregon adding him to Teitum Moore, Evan Stewart, who missed pretty much the entire season last year, and McClellan, that's going to be hard for anybody. I don't care if it's Texas, Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Notre Dame, Miami, whoever they end up playing in the playoff, and it's a pretty good bet Oregon's going to be in the playoff. That receiver group is going to be probably the fastest and most explosive in the country. Look out for the Ducks. They do lose Kenyon Sadiq, My question there, will Andrew Olich, the transfer from Penn State, be a guy that steps in? Is it going to be somebody else? They lost a few tight ends, Cade Caton, Zach Grace, Vanderplug went to NC State. Like, I'm not sure what that's going to mean, if they're going to go more four wide or how they're going to do it, but you're not going to replace Kenyon Sadiq. Offensive line, this is something I alluded to earlier. Michael Bennett comes in from Yale. The last 3 years, he had 28 starts at right tackle. He's 6'5", 310. He's a big guy, and he's been pretty darn consistent. 449 snaps, 715 snaps, and then this past season, 839. He's pretty good. Again, he's playing at Yale, so I don't know how we can really go with the grades, but 73.4 for run blocking. Pass pro is 67.8, offense 74.5. Does he play guard? Does he play tackle? Does he play right? Does he play left? How does Oregon shift around its offensive line? They lost a couple of guys, but they're not in a bad spot. I just don't know if they're going to be able to take that next step up and be dominant. They certainly have the run game to do it, and Dante can even run a little bit as well. So they're in a pretty good spot there, but is it enough offensively against the elite teams? That's my only real question is the offensive line, and that's being very, very nitpicky. I don't think you should really look at it from that perspective overall, because again, with the skill talent they have, teams are going to have to play a lot of two high safety, cover three, and that's just not the same kind of deal. A lot of teams will probably struggle mightily, to be really honest, because they're not going to be able to do anything in regards to really coming after them, blitz, cover one, cover zero. Oregon's not going to see much of that. And when they do, it's going to be a team that's doing it pretty much out of desperation, I would imagine. And anybody that thinks they can do it, good luck to them, because again, that's one of the fastest units in college football. When we come back, I want to go over the defensive side. We'll get into the chat, answer some questions. If you have any comments, any questions about Oregon and what's going on with the Ducks, fire away in the chat. We'll be right back right here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring last-minute tickets without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs with you, a fan. If you look at the Game Time app right now, you can pick up any game you want. I don't care if it's Oklahoma City Thunder, Indiana Pacers, Miami Heat, whatever it wants. You can look at all the different options, and you can do it in a couple of minutes. Just type in the team name, find the date you want to go to a game where you're interested in an opponent, click on it, and you can see the seats right there on your phone, and you can figure out, hey, I'm interested in this or not, because you can click on that seat and see the view to the court from right there on your phone. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Create an account on Game Time's app. Use code Locked On for $20 off for your first purchase. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. We are also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. We got the Super Bowl coming up, and that's it. One last kickoff, the final chance to get in all the action before the NFL season is done. So this Super Bowl 60, FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with special offer just in time for the biggest football game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. There's all kinds of things going on with the quarterbacks. Who's going to score the first touchdown? Is it going to be Jackson Smith-Njigba? Is he going to get a 30-yard reception or more? Player props, all kinds of stuff. And if you're a newcomer, just $5 down, get you $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count with the Super Bowl. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. For the Oregon defense, there's a lot going on that's a positive. They've got players all over the place that are not just good, but really, really talented. And it starts up front. I don't know if there's a better combination than Mateo Uiagalelei and Teitum Tuioti. You know, Tuioti, by the way, he plays outside linebacker, drops in coverage once in a while at 6'3" and just over 260 pounds. But I love watching him play. They'll do different things with him on the goal line, put him at middle linebacker, then move him around. 15 games, 705 snaps last year. I'd like to see him get fewer snaps. That is certainly one thing. He played a lot. Defensive grade, 83.8. Run defense, 80. tackling 81.2, pass rush 82.7. Even in coverage, he was 61. That's not bad for a guy his size. 38 pressures, 11 sacks, 47 stops, 55 tackles, and 2 forced fumbles. When you put him next to Uyunglele again on each edge, Uyunglele had 52 pressures and 6 sacks, 30 tackles. That might be the best 1-2 punch in college football. It is certainly right up there. They got Bear Alexander coming back. They're going to be really good at defensive tackle in general. Amari Washington's coming back. They're in a good spot here. But at the same time, I'm not sure the depth is going to be the same. So let's talk about that. I mean, they lost a plethora of guys. They did add Blue Dantzler from Oregon State, 62-41. He's got 4 years left. He only played 8 snaps this past year and redshirted. They lost Blake Purchase as well as Toby Hastrip to the portal. Purchase, 6'3", 245. He's a good player. He had 352 snaps last year, 14 pressures and a couple sacks. So that's an example of a really good player. They add Jerome Simmons in the middle, 6'4", 330. He played at University of Louisiana Monroe this past year. 8 games, didn't start, but had 142 snaps, 3 pressures, 9 tackles, and 5 stops. That's a big dude. DeAndre Robinson, who started out at Texas and went to North Carolina this last year. Kid I know from Orlando, 6'4", about 315 pounds. He started the bowl game versus Tulane and played 10 more, 2 sacks, 12 tackles, 3 stops. And then in 2024 and 25, he started 2 out of 12 games, 377 snaps, 9 pressures, 1 sack, 32 tackles, 20 stops, and 1 fumble. He's another big body guy. So they got 2 more. So maybe D-tackle will be pretty good. It's more if Teitum gets injured or Mateo gets injured, like the edge. I don't know if they can replace those guys. That's going to be difficult. They also lost Tion Gray to Notre Dame, 6'6", 336. Terrence Green to Alabama, 6'5", 330. Jericho Johnson to Cal, 6'4", 342. Ashton Porter to Houston, 6'3", 290. And Zadavian Sims to Arkansas, 6'3", 305. They lost 7 defensive linemen. That is insane. And to still have one of the best in the country, nobody has recruited D-line any better than Dan Lanning and the Ducks. I don't know which one of those guys will be the biggest problem, but I do know that losing Tosh Lupoy, the defensive lineman, our D-line coach and defense coordinator, is a big reason. He got a lot of those guys to come to Oregon, Gray, Green, Johnson, Porter, Sims, but they also wanted to play for him as much, if not more, than they wanted to be a Duck. It's common. So how many of these guys are going to really hurt them? That's a question. But if they can stay healthy up front for the most part, especially Tatum and Mateo on that edge, I think they're going to be a really difficult team to deal with. Linebacker, they bring in Kamar Mathuti. He's got 3 years left, played 4 games, 24 snaps this past year. Not a huge deal, but they didn't add anybody either. I think they're in a pretty good spot there. Corner is interesting. They had Aaron Scott. He's got 2 years left from Ohio State. He was a very highly touted guy this past year. 8 games, 106 snaps. PFF coverage grade was 69.4. He's probably somebody that will compete for playing time, at least be a backup. But they also lost Dalen Austin going to Arizona. He had some pretty decent background, but he just never got over the hump. 13 games last year, 148 snaps, 76 defensive coverage grade. Dakota Fields couldn't really get on the field. 3 games this past year. And Jaleel Florence, a kid that was really good, but he got hurt at the end of 2023, and he's just never been the same. He's transferring over to Missouri. That's a guy that was a major contributor in 2023. He had 392 snaps. Sion Wale, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, a big corner. He was a former JUCO. He's got 2 years left. 6 games, 116 snaps last year. Good player, but I think they'll be okay at corner. They've recruited that spot incredibly well. Koi Perich. This is the kid that I talked about earlier that I think has the chance to not only be good for Oregon, but because of that front, they've got some pretty good linebackers coming back. I think he's going to get some free catches. In other words, interceptions, which always helps to pad the stats to give yourself a chance at Defensive Player of the Year, whether it's conference, nationally, whatever. And he's a guy that was big time at Minnesota for 2 straight years. He was actually, his statistics were even better in 2024. He started 3 of 12 games, 424 snaps, defensive grade 88.9 as freshman. Run defense, 82.3, tackling 74.7, pass rush 69.9, and coverage 88.9. 3 pressures, 49 tackles, 19 stops, a forced fumble, 5 picks. And he was just dominant. And this past year, teams went at him a little differently, but he also played 789 snaps. That's a lot. Defensive grade 62.2, run defense 64.9, tackling 50.3, pass rush 69.6, coverage 57.8, 5 pressures, a sack, 84 tackles, 21 stops, a forced fumble, and a pick, which was a 27-yard score. Teams avoided him a little bit, and I think he was banged up some. His grade going down that much kind of tells me something, but he was also so versatile. He had 7 catches for 89 yards and had 5 carries for 9 yards. Koi Perich is going to be that guy for Oregon. They're going to use him in a bevy of different ways. Don't be shocked if he gets some offensive reps. That's a special player. They also bring in Carl Williams, the fourth from Baylor, 6'1", 192 pounds. He's got a couple years left. He played a lot of nickel at Baylor. He played 325 snaps in 2024 for Baylor as a nickel. Injuries got to him in 2024, and he barely played this past year. But he was still pretty good. 5 out of 12 games started in 23, started 7 out of 8 games in 24, 440 snaps in 24, 413 the year before. So they got some really talented players coming in. I think it's going to be interesting because, again, they're loaded. They lost a couple of guys, Kingston Lopa and Solomon Davis. Neither one of them were massive losses, a couple of solid players, but Oregon's back end combined with the talent, the young talent they have at corner, gives them a chance to be a top 5 secondary, if not top 3. That's going to be interesting because it's one of the questions I asked earlier. Matter of fact, I'll put the questions back up just because I think they're really prudent to what's going on here. Oregon is in a scenario where a lot of things are going to happen for that offense. They're going to score. My 5th question, if you look at this, if you're watching on YouTube, and I'll read it again, secondary versus elite teams that can also score with them, are they going to be clutch in big moments? That is my biggest question for the defense. Because against teams like an Ohio State or an Indiana, maybe it's USC, whoever they play in the Big Ten championship game, or if they get into the playoff, which, again, I expect, that's going to be a much more difficult scenario. Teams that have to throw, that have similar talent to you, they've got a pass rush. It's not elite, but it's pretty good. Can they be a team that just mans up and takes away guys no matter who they're playing? They did it against Indiana. They got beat pretty handily in some of those coverage situations. I was actually a little surprised by that. So to that end, I think Oregon's, they're still really good, but let's jump into the chat here. What's going on, Salty? You are dominating the chat, my man. What do we got? Happy Wednesday, says Salty. Here's a good question. Would Dante Moore have had less quarterback competition in the NFL draft if he entered it this year? Ooh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I don't know. Next year, CJ Carr will be in it more than likely, barring something unforeseen. I think he's the most likely number 1 pick. But Arch Manning might leave after this year. That's another possibility. There are some other guys, like quarterback's hard to predict. I don't know. Quarterback from USC, if he has a big year, and of course, Lincoln Riley's known for quarterbacks. There are a lot of possibilities, but I don't know. Like the NFL looks at it differently than I do, Salty. That's a great question, though. Did Raiola really know that Moore wasn't going to leave Oregon when he transferred? I have no idea. I'd love to know, but not many guys are willing to start, then go sit. So that's a valid point. And good for him if he did, because sitting out and watching is probably a pretty good thing. Are Camarion Morgan, Horatio Fields, Parker Navarro, Amari Wallace, and Broderick Scholl the top 5 players still in the portal? I can't put them all together because every scheme is different. Individual rankings across positions to me is super hard. That might be, but I doubt there's a whole lot left beyond those guys that are going to compete at that level. How do you pronounce Bogpen Miller's given first name? No clue. It's Bodpegn. You tell me, man. I've never seen that spelling in my life. Katie, Dan Lanning has got to be under immense pressure to bring a natty home sooner than later. He's got the roster to do it. He's got a senior quarterback that has experience. I would imagine he's in a pretty good spot. But at the same time, it's a bunch of teams that are in similar boats. So only one team can win it. Katie, that IU beatdown exposed some major issues in the Duck program. Something just isn't right. they got outcoached badly in that game. I'll give you an example. Oregon throws a lot of short passes. Of course, Will Stein's now the head coach at the University of Kentucky. Congrats to him and good luck in Lexington. But they were squatting on those, and Indiana ate them up. And Oregon just didn't have an answer. Here's my question. Did both Stein and Tosh Lupoy, who got the Cal job, congrats to him and good luck to him in Berkeley, did them leaving, in the process of leaving, impact preparation and everything else? This is a question that always comes up. And I don't know. It's not easy to try to do one job, let alone do multiple, especially with the portal going on, answering questions for the high school recruits, make sure they don't get in the portal. Guys, they just signed with Cal or Kentucky. Like, that is complex. And you're trying to put a game plan together against Indiana? That's rough, man. That's really rough. Salty. Is Oregon relying too much on the portal, and are too many players leaving because of it? They got 12 guys coming in. I think that's just right. But they're to a point now they don't have to use the portal as much. Now, 2 years ago, you might have asked differently. But Oregon's one of those programs, the kids they're taking out of the portal, they've done a great job of vetting them, and they're just adding studs, and that's it. They're not really worrying about taking volume, taking a bunch of chances. So I'll say no. And the kids that are leaving, like, part of it's just better offers other places. Like, it's not even Oregon's fault. And it's not like Oregon's short of money. Obviously, they've got a really good supply, but I don't think it's necessarily a portal problem anymore for Oregon. Katie from Salty, he asks, I'm suspicious that Oregon has too many portal guys to sustain a strong team culture. They're very good, but as you say, when they bend, they break. Again, I don't think it's the portal. I'll disagree with you there, but it's not that they don't use it, but they don't use it as much as some other teams. Like, under 15 portal guys, you're probably good. Let's see, Katie. I don't know about Raiola. I question the character and commitment of this guys that always look for the greener grass. Okay, yeah, there's truth in that. Dylan Raiola committed to Georgia, Nebraska, Oregon. Actually, let me correct you. He was committed to Ohio State, to Nebraska, Georgia, ended up at Nebraska. Now he's transferred to Oregon. He was at like 4 different high schools. He doesn't stay in one place very long. So he could be the next Jaden Rashada. Well, there might be truth in that. Let's see. Salty. Brian, are you in your new digs now? If so, what happened to the Oakley display case? Was it lost during the move? I have, let's see, 2, 3, 4. I've got 6 Oakley display cases in front of me, and that's not even all of them that I have. So they're just on the other side. I'm still rearranging, and yes, I am in my new digs, and I love being down in South Alabama near the beach. It's awesome. Absolutely love it. Has Bear Alexander ever stayed in one place for more than one season? What is this, his 6th year? I want to say he was at SC 2 years. Is that right? If not, I'm not sure. Matter of fact, let me pull up and I'll check for you live here on the show. But that's another guy, kind of like Raiola. He took a lot of different opportunities to go to a lot of different places. He started out at the University of Georgia, but then he moved on. So I don't know why certain guys are just never really happy at one spot. But anyway, let's see. In 2022, he played for Georgia. In 2023, Bear Alexander played for Southern Cal. In 2024, Bear Alexander also played for Southern Cal, but only played 3 games, so he quit middle of the season. And then this past year for Oregon, he was pretty good. Let's see. Okay, I'll give Bear some credit here. He played all the way through the season. Yeah, he played in every game, started all but 3, the very first 3. 581 snaps, 18 pressures, a couple of sacks. He had 31 stops, meaning a play where it derailed the offense, staying on track to get first downs. Like, that's pretty impressive. Maybe he's matured. I don't know. I imagine Oregon probably paid him pretty well to stick around too. Dominating the chat. Katie and I are the chat. You're right. You're only 2 people in here right now. Appreciate the portal insights on Oregon. I thought they did more in the portal. Maybe that was a couple years ago. I think so. Salty, I think you're right. Like, the portal for Oregon has slowly mitigated into where it should be. If you're in that 5 to 15 range, you're probably pretty good. Part of it, though, you got to remember, like, there are kids that'll tell a coach late November, hey, I'm going to be back, coach. But then unexpectedly, that young man gets an offer. Look at Luke Farrelly. He transferred to Clemson, was in class, but the offer from Ole Miss was twice as much, so he left. It's hard to turn it down. So part of it is you have to replace what was taken from you. It's why the numbers are so difficult, and it's not an easy thing to get into. Thank you very much for checking out the Portal Podcast again today. I'm actually going to do a crossover with Locked On Ducks host Spencer McLaughlin probably sometime in the next week or so. I want official. I'm going to do several of my own volition on what the numbers are, Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, etc. And then go back and get somebody that's an expert to come on. I've got my guy, Mark Henry. It's going to help me with the Texas pod. He works with the Texas side. He's a big horns guy. Like, I'll do my own and then have somebody come in and just kind of challenge me, talk through it and go through it. And Spencer McLaughlin will be that guy with the Oregon pod. So that should be a lot of fun. I don't think there could be enough portal information. Like, this year's portal is wild. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Katie, who's the team tomorrow? Well, let's discuss it. Who do we want? I've got notes on different people, but I don't have any one team. Like, Oregon was a lot of information because they hit so high. It took me about 3 hours to do Oregon. Just stats and stuff. And like cross-referencing opinions and comments that I put in my notes. It's like 4 or 5 pages of notes on like 12 guys they added and then just a bunch of guys that left. Again, they lost 70 linemen. So that was a little harder. I don't know. Who do we want to see? It's pretty interesting. Let's see. Salty, Ole Miss. Oof. I talked to Stephen Willis about that one. That's a really difficult team. They've got a couple of things to discuss, and we'll see. I need to wait a couple of – I want to see if the Trinidad thing – by the way, if Trinidad Chambliss got something happen today, I have not looked. But I want the official detail on him before I do Ole Miss. Because, like, that's everything. It completely changes college football. You could make an argument that Ole Miss is number one next year if Trinidad's back. You could at least put him in the conversation. Katie says Miami. I've talked about them. I did a pod on them the other day. But I could do – you know what? Let's do this. Katie gives me a really good idea. I'm working on Florida State anyway. I cover FSU, Locked On Seminoles. I'll do some Miami, kind of some overview. Then I'll hit on a few different teams in general. The ACC, by the way, if you want something wild, pull up, I think it's on X. It shows all the schedules on one of the handles. The ACC is now the Friday Night Football League. It's insane. Miami's playing 3 games, plus they're playing a Thursday game. Florida State's got 3 Friday games. They got a Monday game. It's wild like that. That league's trying to go away from games against the Big Ten and the SEC. You can see it a mile away. So I'm curious if anybody could even remotely challenge the Miami Hurricanes. I'll talk a little bit about Miami at the beginning. NC State, CJ Bailey. They got Chance Robinson. They got JoJo Trader. They got Popo Aguirre. They're coming over from Miami. They got some guys coming back, but they lost. Obviously, Hollywood Smothers. I mean, that's really good running back. Can anybody challenge Miami? We'll talk about that and just some thoughts on the portal overall tomorrow. We'll go that route. Katie, so thank you for the idea. I will absolutely do that. It's pretty straightforward, though. It's going to be fun because there are so many different teams in the ACC, especially I'll probably lean into Virginia Tech a little bit. Obviously, James Franklin. Maybe he's the next team that will challenge Miami with the Virginia Tech Hokies because there aren't a lot of teams that I trust right now to do that. But with that, thank you very much for checking out the Portal Podcast. It's been a blast. We appreciate it. We will see you again soon.